Hello! Today I'm going to talk about strategies for teaching writers how to choose the right word. Answering the question of what word to use is a complicated one because the answer is not always going to be the same. It depends on numerous factors that change according to who the speaker is, who the writer is, who the audience is, the location, and the purpose of the piece being written. On the one hand, this is a difficult aspect of writing, but on the other, it's what makes writing exciting and personal. It's what allows writers to induce emotions in readers, recreate the mood of a scene, and differentiate characters. And as difficult as this skill seems initially, there are strategies that can help students make the decision of what word fits best, depending on the circumstance. So some of the strategies that teachers can use for demonstrating word choice would be shades of variation between synonyms. For example, when you have words such as nice versus kind. If you look at them on the surface, they appear to have very similar meanings, but then when you think about when you would use them, it's not necessarily the same. So for example, when you say someone is nice, you're not necessarily saying that they are kind. If you say that something is dark, you're not necessarily saying it's black. There's dark brown, there's dark as in light, where there's the lack of light. And then you have sick and ill. Sick and ill typically often are used interchangeably. However, when you say someone is sick versus someone is ill, typically when you say someone is ill, it might mean something a little bit more heavy. Perhaps they are more sick. So there's a slightly more negative connotation on that, and we'll talk about a little bit more. Another strategy that teachers can use is word morphology. The thing about the English language is that majority of the words that we use actually come from other languages. Latin, French, Norse, from all over the place, German, so that actually most of English is not originally from English. So knowing where a word comes from and what it meant in the original language can provide a lot of context for a student to be able to determine if the meaning will fit in that situation. An example of this would be to take the word undulate, okay? The meaning of the word is to move and flow, kind of like water, like a wave, right? To make a waving motion. And you can actually, when you look it up in the dictionary, and this is something you could point out to your students, all the words in the dictionary that come from other languages, it actually will say what the root language is and also the meaning that it comes from. For example, if we take undulate again, you can see it in the dictionary. When you look it up in the dictionary, I don't know if you can see very close when you come up, but the word undulate, let's see, so to undulate, here we go. So you can see here that it shows that it comes from L, the Latin, okay, which means wave. Unda means wave. And you can see that the idea of this motion in the word undulate remains. So in the original language, unda meant wave, and in English we now use this word to mean a motion that sort of mimics and gives the picture of a wave. The most important thing, though, when choosing an appropriate word is to clearly communicate what you mean, though. So for this part of the strategy, you need to make sure that students understand that this is determined not only by what you are communicating, but who your audience is, why you are communicating it, etc. And an aspect of this is denotation versus connotation. Now, denotation is the dictionary meaning of the word. So if I were to give you the dictionary meaning of the word undulate, to move or cause to move in waves, or to have or cause to have a wavy form or surface. So you have the two dual meanings. Now, if you were to look at the connotation of this word, in the circumstances that you would use this, you wouldn't use it to describe, say, the wave at a sporting event. For example, at a football game, you're not going to say people were undulating as they're doing the wave. That's not really appropriate to the context. But you would use it to describe the motion within a dance, for example, because you want to express the fluidity of that movement. So for denotation and connotation, I'm going to give you another example. So whereas denotation, again, as we said, is the dictionary meaning, connotation is its implied meaning, or the meaning that we use within the context of society and culture. An example of this would be smile versus smirk. Again, on the surface, you have two words that mean something very similar. But when you look at the deeper meaning or the connotation of the words, you would not use them in the same context, because a smile implies something very general, very happy and light, whereas a smirk is implying something a little bit more negative, sort of a sense of superiority or feeling better than someone else. And this is not fully contained within the dictionary meaning.
So here we're going to demonstrate what I mean by word choice and the variations in meanings of how to communicate precisely what you mean. In this first example, where the paragraph is describing a day at the beach, you see it reads, a cloudless blue sky greeted me as I arrived at the beach. The sun warmed my skin as I turned up my face to smile and sigh. Okay, my next example, same topic, but when you read it, you see, not a breeze cooled me, nor a cloud protected me as I stepped onto the beach. The sun was scorching just as it has been for weeks. So you can see you have the same topic, but the choice of words clearly demonstrates something a bit more negative, like they don't want to be at the beach. And here you have your third example. According to the weatherman, it was supposed to be a perfect day, but when I arrived at the beach, dark clouds covered the sky. Despite the damp and chilly air, I moved onto the beach to set up my lounge chair, lay out my towel, and pull out my snacks. Again, you can see an even more negative example. The final part of this activity, you can see that you have these phrases, okay, from that show from the first paragraph, the second paragraph, and then from the third paragraph, and the differences in the variation between them. So here you have cloudless blue sky is a more happy description. Not a breeze cooled me, nor a cloud protected me. Sun was scorching. Heat sapped my strength. You can see that this person clearly was not very happy with the weather at the beach. And here you have someone almost sarcastically saying it was supposed to be perfect, but dark clouds and damp chilly air, raindrop or two. This is clearly a negative experience being described here. As a final part of the exercise, the students will see these sentences written on the board. This will be the first sentence. The wooden bowl made a loud thud as it hit the ground. And then here you have your second sentence. As she walked away, waving goodbye, his wooden smile never
So the
cracked.
particular idea of this last part of the exercise of putting these sentences on the board is to show, see if the students can identify, based on the discussion in class of denotation versus connotation, see if they can be able to identify that difference within those two sentences. And not only that, but also give the reason why. For example, you can see in the first sentence, the wooden bowl made a loud thud as it hit the ground. Well, here you have clearly denotation, where you're giving a dictionary meaning of the word wooden, or something made out of wood. And then you have in the second sentence, as she walked away waving goodbye, his wooden smile never cracked. And here you have more of a connotation. The reason being that you're using it to describe a smile that's not quite real, sort of like a Pinocchio. It's not an honest smile. It's not demonstrating the real feeling beneath it. So the activity should be evaluated using a rubric, which obviously, if they can identify all of the words that the word choices used that demonstrate mood, and are also able to demonstrate knowing the difference between denotation and connotation, as well as being able to give reasons. That's the ideal we're looking for. But also, if students are still unable to recognize other meanings, this is a topic that you can expand on over multiple classes and use additional strategies, such as going into morphology of words in more detail, working more with synonyms, such as creating lists where you have several lists of many, many different words, and showing the differences in synonyms and also the variation, the shades of meaning between them. For example, if you have something that has a more positive meaning and then you have a synonym that has a more negative meaning, depending on the context. So thank you. I hope everyone has a great evening.